Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Lee Yoder. Lee is the founder and CEO of Threefold Real Estate Investing, where they help investors achieve passive cash flow and growth and wealth through multifamily. Lee left his W-2 not that long ago, I think probably like 7 years. We'll get the skinny on it soon. And he's been in the multifamily game since. Lee, welcome to the show.
Jonathan, really happy to be here. Fan of the show, and glad to be a guest today.
Yeah, no, it's always great to talk to people who haven't been in it as long as I have, because I like to figure out where the journey started. I think it started with you with the famous purple book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Why did you pick up the book? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, great question. I was kind of just working a corporate job. I'm a physical therapist by trade, but I got on with the company. I was only 2 years into being a physical therapist, and I came in with the company, and I'd been working with them for a year, one of those 2 years, and then I became a clinical director with them, working in the office. It was a startup company. I felt like, man, this is what I like doing. I like building something. It's very entrepreneurial because this company was a startup. I was kind of building out one of the divisions in the company and answering directly to the founder and just loving that work, but then feeling like, man, I don't know if this is long-term because, what a lot of people struggle with climbing the corporate ladder, like just a lot of time away from family, just feeling like you can't balance that the way you want to and live the life you want to live, even though while I was at work, I was really enjoying that. So the reason how I got to Rich Dad Poor Dad was just kind of looking like, okay, well, if I leave this corporate job, I felt like I could not go back to physical therapy because it's like, that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is more of it. Right. And so just started networking with people, reading some books, and, Rich Dad Poor Dad gets recommended a lot. So I ended up reading that. And that was a light bulb moment for me, Jonathan, that it was like, okay, wow, it seems like there's this whole other game that I could play. It's not just, which W-2 do I want to do? Do I want to be a physical therapist for, 35 years, or do I want to climb the corporate ladder for 35 years? It was like, there's actually some very different options out there that I felt like I'd never heard of. No one ever told me about, investing in real estate or like just being a business owner, being an entrepreneur. I just didn't feel like that was ever presented to me as an option. And Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of opened my eyes to that. So that led to more networking. Had a friend at church who was in real estate full time. My dad is in construction. So I grew up around construction. So just real estate. And I love math. I love spreadsheets. So the more I started learning, I'm like, man, I feel like this real estate thing could be my thing, because again, I was kind of looking for something entrepreneurial, able to build something. I'm like, man, I could build a real estate portfolio. And the more people I talked to that were in, I was like, yeah, I think I want to do that. It wasn't until the fall of 2017 that we got our first real estate deal. It was a single family flip, but that was kind of how I, came to Rich Dad Poor Dad and what I decided to do as far as kind of getting started into my real estate journey.
That's the difference between an entrepreneurial mindset, which you have, and what I think people have now is they think they want to be an entrepreneur, but they really want is just money.
Yeah, right.
I don't even think they really want time freedom. They just see Lamborghini, like, that looks awesome. I want a big house. Like, that's not, if that's your dream, there's so many ways that it's going to go wrong, because you're going to try to go way too fast to get there. Are you seeing that now with people who are getting in the game, especially in the syndication game now, because you've been in that part for a while?
Yeah, Jonathan, it's a really long runway. I mean, I think if it's a long-term game, and it's very much, the compound effect where, things happen very slowly for a long time and you're building for a long time. But if you stick with it, it's going to be a hockey stick at some point. It's going to take off, but you're going to look at people that job I left for years and years. And honestly, I'm probably still like maybe close to like my annual income. I can probably still look at those people that stayed in that corporate job and continue and their income has always been outpacing mine. Now I own some big pieces of some big apartment buildings. And
they go home at 8:30.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. The time freedom. You're absolutely right. I've got a lot of that, but I'm like just building this snowball, but it takes a long time to pay off. So you're absolutely right. If you said, well, what I really want to do is make an extra 25 grand, probably your better route is just move up within your company.
Yeah, for sure.
Take a job somewhere, someone comes and recruits you and go work there for a pay raise. You're gonna be better. This is like, hey, I'm going to take a step back and, delay gratification for a long time, but then the payoff's going to be huge. And the time freedom, like I actually do value time freedom over money, in the short term. You're absolutely right. That's a big difference that I do see a lot of people that think I'm going to do entrepreneur because yeah, they kind of see that and it's like they forget that that's 10 years from now.
What's been the hardest part for you in your growth? Because you've had a very steady growth, and it looks like you're on a really strong trajectory here. But what's been the hardest part for you, kind of organizing and growing
hmm
this into what you have now?
hmm Yeah, we've complained. I've complained a lot about it's hard to find good deals. Like real estate, I know there's parallels to other businesses, but I just think of like owning other businesses, right?
Yeah,
With real estate, so we've gone a year with no sales, with not buying anything, and so that's kind of unique, and it's uniquely challenging. It's challenging just in your head to stay in the game and not go chase something else because like, oh, this isn't working. Let's go buy car washes because everybody's doing car
yeah,
washes today. Yeah, that's very challenging. I would say the other thing, Jonathan, is the more you buy, the more you realize how important operations is. And we use third party management early on. And I think it's a great way to get started because, we were working with professionals that knew
yeah,
exactly what they were doing when we didn't know what we were doing. But we got to a point where after working with them for, 3 or 4 years, we felt like, okay, now we do know what we're doing. And I think we can do it a little bit better. And so over the past year, it's been over a year now, we've brought all property management in house. And
oh,
that was
awesome.
a huge undertaking. I mean, that was building a whole nother business. That's not an asset management business that's just buying investments and bringing investors in.
Yeah,
This is now a property management business, and it was a much harder business in a lot of ways to stand up and get going. And so operations is extremely challenging in multifamily. Um, you're dealing with people. People are emotional and challenging, and sometimes they don't get along with each other, and sometimes they start fires, and sometimes they don't pay their rent.
yeah.
So that's been the most challenging, but it's gone really well. Actually, I'm really happy, really proud of our property management company. And it allows us to operate even better. So, but that is tough. It's easy just to look at numbers, like you
Yeah.
and I both like spreadsheets. The spreadsheets don't tell you anything about your property management company and how well it's going to operate because
Yeah.
that's who decides if you hit those numbers in your spreadsheet or not.
Yeah.
And it's challenging. It's very difficult.
What do you think the biggest problem in the syndication world is right now? There's a lot of good marketers out there. So for someone
Yeah,
who's looking to invest, who has a lot of money, they're thinking, hey, syndications are for me. What should they look out for? What are some things
for
you
sure.
found that people should watch out for?
I think that the main thing right now that's showing up is it's it's all businesses are hard to cash flow, to make profitable. And multifamily is going through a phase right now where income is stagnant
Yeah.
to down in some markets and expenses are going up. I mean, I say as we're seeing the bad side of inflation as apartment owners. 2021 and 2022 was all good inflation. It was all rent inflation, income side inflation.
Yeah.
That's stopped. I mean, some markets it's very negative. I mean, I'm happy to be in the Midwest where we're still positive, but
Yeah.
honestly, I'll be honest with John that our portfolio it's pretty. I mean, we buy stuff that the rents are under, so like our rents are still going up, but the market rent is not going up, and,
Right.
and
Right.
really hasn't really gone up for like 2 years. It's really fairly stagnant, and expenses have gone up. Our taxes went up. 2023 was our reassessment year in Ohio. So 2024, we all started paying our increased taxes. We do it every 3 years here. Insurance, everybody knows insurance is way up. Everybody knows labor costs are up. So
Yeah.
our staff want to make more, and so do our contractors. Material costs are up, electricity up, water up, all that. So it's a really hard time to cash flow. So if you're looking at investing in a syndication, and you're noticing that it looks like they're stretching to make their cash flow numbers work, but then they're promising this big exit, this big back end.
Yeah.
That's what I would be very hesitant with. I would want to know, okay, they're getting in at a really good basis based on the right. Again, go back to that 1% rule. Are you pretty close to the 1% rule? Like, does it look like they're overpaying per unit? Are they forecasting that rent's going to that market rent is going to
Yeah.
make some decent jumps over the next year or two? I don't know, but I think there's a lot of signs that say we're going to a recession. Rent's probably going to keep going down or at least stay flat if we're in a recession. So, man, I've always thought, Jonathan, cash flow is the thing you can count on more than appreciation. So if we know we're getting in at a good basis, we know that the rent at the property is $200 under market. So even if market rent does come down, we're still going to increase rent.
Yeah.
And we can show you that day one, we're going to have good cash flow. But as we increase and take away that $200 premium, rent's going to go, or our cash flow is going to go up even more. That's a story you should be able to get behind versus, hey, we're going to put a bunch of the money in the property and make this, turn this C class into a B class and raise rent by all much. And like our market rent's going to keep going up, but we're not going to cash flow very much, even though we're going to do all that, but we're going to sell it for a ton more than we bought it for. That's the stuff today I'd be very careful with. I acknowledge that worked really, really well for, a handful of years.
Yeah.
Gosh, from 2016 all the way up to 2022, people just crushed it on that strategy. But those same people are really hurting today for the stuff they bought in 2021, 2022. So I would still be very careful with that stuff.